I want to talk about a couple forms of invalid arguments. These are forms of arguments that if you see them, you can know right away they're invalid arguments, because if you make the truth table, there's at least one false under that last row. That statement that we can make is not a tautology. But here we go. So the first one is the fallacy of the converse. So if P then Q is a premise and Q is a premise, if the conclusion here is P, that's an invalid argument. Okay, if P then Q, and I know Q, I can't get from that P. This is an invalid argument. If you symbolize your argument and you see this is what it looks like, or again, this is its general form, if this then that, you can't conclude this. Okay, so if you have something that looks like this, it's a bad argument, it's invalid, you don't need to do the truth table. It's already been done many, many times. That's an invalid argument. Okay, similar to the fallacy of the converse, we have the fallacy of the inverse. This is if I have the premise, if P then Q, and also the premise not P, it is not valid to conclude not Q. Okay, so if P then Q, not P, therefore not Q, that is an invalid argument. Okay, just one more example of an invalid argument type, the misuse of disjunctive reasoning. This really stems from not remembering that our or is the inclusive or. But here's what it looks like. If I have P or Q, and I know P is true, I cannot conclude that Q is false. Okay, remember P or Q means that P is true or Q is true or both. So just knowing that P is true does not guarantee Q is true. That argument is invalid. It can't, if you have an argument of that form, it does not work out when you do the truth table. Similarly, if instead I had Q, I cannot conclude not P. Okay, again, these are not the only types of invalid arguments. They're not the only form they take. You can always check to see if an argument is valid or invalid using the truth table. But if you notice that your argument is of one of these three types, then you know right away it is invalid.